AFC government. And these are clear indications that they do not have the interests of the people of region number 10 at heart. It must also be noted that the PPP government has shown total disregard for hardworking teachers in Region 10 and the entire teaching staff in Guyana. Consequently, we stand in solidarity with our teachers as they confront the high cost of living, poverty, tyranny, and vindictive government that continues to ill-treat them and all the working people of Guyana. In this circumstance, we will not attend any government-organized independence celebration, since to celebrate with the PPP government is to collude with those who are oppressing the people of Guyana. The deliberate exclusion of regional officials from Region 10 from such a significant event is not only callous, but also gross disrespect to the principles of local and regional governance. We wish to emphasize that in previous years, during flag-raising ceremonies in Regions 2 and 9, in which the PPP forms the regional government, there was full participation of the respective regional officials. The barefaced disregard shown towards Region 10 is unacceptable and undermines the spirit of inclusivity and unity that should characterize such national celebrations. It is evident that the current PPP regime is more interested in photo opportunities rather than genuine efforts towards fostering a united Guyana for all its citizens. This exclusionary approach only serves to deepen divisions and foster discord among our people. The complaints of citizens expressed in Stabroek News' Cost of Living series echo those we have been hearing on our outreach. I wish to commend the Stabroek News for its weekly Cost of Living series, in which it solicits the views of ordinary Guyanese from across the country on their life struggles. What many interviewees have been saying to the newspaper. In our community outreach across the country, we have been hearing the said sentiments. In many households, we have noted several dire situations. For example, several households must depend on family members living outside their households for regular financial support. Married children outside their household, for instance, still have to support their parents and unmarried siblings. Even though some households have more than one breadwinner, they still struggle to make ends meet. This fact points to the low wages and salaries and to the related existence of a large mass of working poor in Guyana. Insecurity is rampant. Many households find themselves in financial desperation and deeper poverty when they experience sudden economic crises or shocks, such as the death of a breadwinner, loss of employment, breadwinner becoming a pensioner, high medical expenses, floods and droughts and other calamities. We know that many persons must employ coping mechanisms to combat the high cost of living, such as less food, no expenditure on clothes and such items. Even local fruits are now considered luxuries items and cannot be afforded by many families. Personal saving accounts are non-existent for many individuals and households. Most families have no faith and hope that their circumstances can change under the current government, even though we are an oil-producing nation. We have pledged that as the next government, we will urgently commission a living standards survey to fully assess the living condition of Guyanese households. However, we will not await the results of this survey to implement several measures in the first 100 days in office to better the lives of Guyanese. We will, for example, significantly increase salaries and pensions, abolish personal income tax for low to medium income earners, and increase cash grants and vouchers. By the end of our first term in office, poverty, economic insecurity, and high living costs will be significantly reduced. This is part of our contract with Guyana.
On the first anniversary of the Mahdia dorm fire, the opposition calls for an annual National Day of Remembrance. On the first anniversary this week of the Mahdia Secondary School dormitory fire, We in the opposition join in the remembrance and commemoration of this tragedy, which took 20 precious young lives. Our thoughts, sentiments, and support continue to be extended to their families and communities. We noted the announcement of the government on Monday in the person of Prime Minister Mark Phillips that a memorial site will be established in Region Number 8 to honor the lost lives. We suspect that this site will likely be a small space and physical structure, visibly only to those who happen to pass by. However, while supporting this belated proposal for a memorial, we wish to adopt a more serious approach. Given the national collective grief and horror over this tragedy, we believe that we must memorialize the event in a manner that will not cause it to slip out of the national memory and consciousness due to time or lack of visibility and prominence. We therefore recommend that along with any physical memorial structure in Mahdia, May 21st must be annually designated and observed as Mahdia Children Fire Victims Day. Such an annual observance not only allows the nation to collectively remember the tragedy and its 20 victims, it would also provide the nation with the fitting opportunity to recommit to higher standards of public administration, moral duty, professional conduct, and governmental responsibility and accountability. These 20 young lives must not be lost in vain. To honor them truly and meaningfully, the country must be made a better, safer, and more caring place for children and all other vulnerable and dependent citizens. To continue as before or with mere cosmetic changes is to dishonor them. Make May 21st an annual observance to honor them with dignity. Thank you.
Open for general questions. Um,
Coalition with the AFC. Um, Given the decline in the membership of the AFC, do you believe that it's prudent to have a new partnership, or will that party's Congress be used to assess its strength? Okay. My second question is, reports have been circulating that the Congress is being held at the same time to shore up support for the AFC by having members of the PNC attend its parliamentary partners event. Is this the case? And is there any worry that AFC might attract some of the PNC's members should this happen?
That's it.
And my last question is, some party members have complained about the short notice for Congress. For example, Mr. Gary Best, he labeled the timing as unreasonable. I'm wondering if, do you believe that persons were given adequate time to prepare for this event?
Renewal of coalition. Both the APNU and the AFC will be having Congress around the same time. And therefore, I don't think at this stage that will be discussed. It will be clearly after the Congress where the leadership would have obtained the mandate of the membership. As it relates to the decline in AFC membership, I don't know that there's a decline in AFC membership. And as it relates to the question of shoring up the AFC, I don't know how our Congress could be shoring up the AFC. Our membership are two different sets of people. And therefore, we will pursue our Congress. Our members will attend. The AFC members will attend. Short notice. The Central Executive of the People's National Congress Reform made the decision as to when the Congress would be held. All the members who attended decided. And may I point out that there has been a Congress that occurred in a much shorter time than this. So I don't see the question as a valid question. May I also add that you're aware that many persons were calling for Congress and now they have Congress.
Thank you. Mark Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you so much. Following on the script of that reporter that asked that question there, I'd like to flip it and ask, with the just concluded Congress of the PPP, rumors have it that the elections didn't go in a democratic way, and that a lot of supporters of the PPP are very disgruntled with the manner in which the party is running the affairs of the country. With regards to massive level of corruption, discrimination, racial discrimination, and political discrimination. Is your take on these allegations against the PPP, sir?
Well, you know, the self who we come from water bottom and tell you so happen at bottom, you have to believe them. That's the most I could say. I am not in the PPP, I don't know. But if you come from the water bottom and said, then you have to believe it. And the other thing I would say is that it is in keeping with the way the PPP runs the country. So I think the conditions are propitious to being believed.
And I want to add also, and I ordered a book online, which I was told to read. Basically, the story on Balram Singh Rai, who was a prominent figure in the People's Progressive Party, and it is well documented in that book. I think "Against the Grain" is the name of that book, where he spoke, where it was mentioned extensively about rigging in the People's Progressive Party and their Congress election. And it was documented there, I think it was 1962, how the Jagans really played a major role in getting Balram Singh Rai out of the party, basically, and favored Brintley Benn at the time for the chairmanship position. And it's a book I will recommend many people to put their hands on and read it, and they will see extensively where it is documented about rigging in the People's Progressive Party, coming directly from the mouths of members of the People's Progressive Party. And Mark, I want to add also that many of the membership of the PPP reached out to us, indicating what has happened at their Congress too. And we can only know that, as the leader rightly said, and I would normally put it, style it and say, as heard it before, that when Huri come from Creek Bottom and he tell you, say, Patwaga fever, you got to believe it. And the point I'm making is the membership of the PPP expressed their disappointment about ballots being counted in a small room outside of the membership of the party who voted. And we saw how the results came out. It was even shocking to the PPP members, where Kwame McCoy was basically placed on top of Anil Nandalal, and that was a sensational moment in the social media sphere. And we saw the likes of Dharam Lal, who's very controversial, as everybody knows, reaching to the top, which the PPP is basically cementing their trust in an individual with that kind of name being plastered all over as a wicked person in society, so to speak. And I saw it also, as many other PPP people, as Jagdeo taking command and showing that he is the boss and he doesn't respect and embrace that democratic process that it's supposed to be. And it was really a farce. Indeed, it was a farce. And everybody, I think, saw it for what it is, and they have to know what they're doing there. What I know is that the PNC, for the many congresses I have been a part of, we never took our ballot boxes in any room in Congress Place or any corner and counted. Everything is always done openly and in front of everybody's view, and the results have always been one that withstood the test of time.
an article that was posted on Village Voice hour ago. I'm just trying to confirm, Mr. Martin, is it true that you expelled the North America region arm of the PNCR? And if so, why?
The People's National Congress Reform Central Executive met and took a position on the situation in North America. The General Council of the party endorsed it, and it was decided by the General Council and the Central Executive that the groups in North America be met. They were engaged, and it was decided that the North American groups will continue to be active, and they continue to be active. But it was also decided that they will set up a steering committee and that all the groups in North America will meet and elect a leadership, well, not in North America, in the United States, and will meet and establish a body to govern. Meanwhile that is happening, they will be in direct contact with the Central Executive and the General Secretary of the party, and that process is ongoing.
Any other questions? With there being no.
I want to, with your permission,
Go ahead.
Chair, I want to add a comment on, I saw in the media that there is a talk by Vice President Jagdeo concerning the procurement system and that government is undertaking a review. I want to remind the public that the coalition in the National Assembly and since 2021 signaled their dissatisfaction and content over the procurement system of this country. We first highlighted that there was an abuse on the Procurement Act of 2003. We outlined that the membership of the tender boards in the respective regions were not done as per uniformity when you look at all 10 regions. We pointed out that the regions in which the People's Progressive Party won, their regional democratic councils elected their 2 representatives on the regional tender boards. We pointed out that regions where the APNU AFC won, the REOs chose the 2 members without even getting the blessings of the elected councillors. And that was specific to regions 4, 7, and 10. We pointed out that the entire system of how the assessment is done for contract awarding and the flagrant violation of the Procurement Act of 2003 is responsible for us having a system where the government is accused, and on many fronts we believe so, in the practice of corruption. And Jagdeo should be the last person to talk about targeting civil servants, and he went as low to speak about clerks and so on in the system. We would recall that the Sue Gates and the Sue and Jagdeo famous Vice News video release, where it was brought out that Sue was a very good friend who could determine who gets contracts and so on. So if there is any way that requires the fixing of the procurement system in Guyana, it is very simple. For there to be no political interference in the operations of the procurement system and full respect for the Procurement Act of 2003. If you want to ensure that there is proper accountability, transparency, and good governance, then the amendments I will like to proffer is for there to be an inclusion on the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, representatives from the opposition, so that it can be properly scrutinized and information when requested are presented. The opposition umpteen times has submitted letters to accounting officers and tender board chairpersons for them to, in keeping with Section 10(1) and 2 of the Procurement Act, to make available, make public the names of the contracting forms, the bids that they supplied, the contract, who it was awarded to, and to basically justify that these contractors satisfied the requirement to be awarded the contract. We see what happened with the Tapui contract after the report that was presented by the Public Procurement Commission. We see that there was another contractor complaining that they did not receive the contract when they should have, in keeping with them satisfying the requirements for the contract. So the entire procurement system is in jeopardy because of political interference from people like Jagdeo. And if he is serious and the government is serious about fixing the procurement system, then they need to adhere to the Procurement Act and desist from political interference by determining who should get which contract to put the monies in their friends, families, and favorites' pockets, and start with a system that is equal to all contractors, regardless of whoever applies for a contract.
I want to make it very clear that Jagdeo has no moral right to speak about corruption. I've invited him many times to put his assets out there against his earning over the years. And if they can stand scrutiny, I would welcome. Suggest that he's the most corrupt president we have ever had. His comments on Vincent Adams. As a former head of state, I think at least he should have the decency to admit that Vincent is a petroleum engineer, he's well qualified, and that Barra Jagdeo can fetch water for Vincent Adams. And it is misplaced for him, with his limited knowledge, technically and otherwise, to be making the kind of comments on somebody like Vincent Adams, who served, I think, as an Assistant Secretary of State Energy in the United States government. I do not know what he has to benefit from it, but all I can say, he's out of place, and that Vincent Adams is far more certified and qualified than this chap we got running around claiming he knows something about oil and gas.
And the second comment I want to make, with your permission, Chair, has to do with this constant attack that we see Barra Jagdeo exerting on Kaichor News. It is very, very unfair, and I believe that Guyanese should stand up against that level of attack on a media house. We are not gullible people, and we are able to read and decipher. And in the world of information, especially with social media taking a front, we are able to do our own assessment and draw our conclusion. But to have a politician attacking a media house in what is supposed to be a democracy for all, where press freedom must be recognized and entertained to the point where we give the due respect to our media colleagues, we must remember that we cannot participate in that kind of behavior and allow it to go unchecked. For if we allow it to go unchecked, today might be Kaichor News, tomorrow might be the Stabrook News, and the very next day may be a reporter from Chronicle who doesn't do as was advised or guided. Now, we know that they are state media and they are media houses aligned to the People's Progressive Party and has publicly shown that. We know what we see and read from the DPI. We know the operations of the Guyana Chronicle and so on, but never has the PNCR entertained that level of derogatory attack on these media houses. And we believe as a party that we should not go down that road to attack the media houses in this country. And that's another comment I wanted to offer based on what I heard from Barra Jagdeo.
There are no other questions. I want to thank all the media personnel for joining today's press conference, and of course, our viewing audience today. And we do wish you a wonderful weekend, and to find an appropriate and a good way to celebrate Guyana's independence this weekend.
Yeah, my name is Jasmine Caldata Francis Vietnam, and since 1965 I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, then losing it by data. I have none.